What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Finance Bro. We have real conversations with real people about money. Today, I have my brother Blake Brooks on the show. My LB, my dog.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
real excited to have him on here. People who follow me on Instagram, you've probably heard me gloat about him a lot. I call him, my pilot brother because he can fly planes, and I think that's super dope. But before we jump into the combo today, Blake, please introduce yourself to everyone, brother. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, Eric, thanks for having me, dog. One of my best friends in life. Really proud of you and what you're doing, and thanks for having me on the show, man. It's an awesome opportunity. For everybody who doesn't know me, my name is Blake Brooks. I'm originally from Jackson, Tennessee. I went to the number one public school in the United States, the United States Naval Academy. Graduated there with my bachelor's of science in economics. I'm a man of omega sci-fi, quasi-world traveler. You hear me? I'm a 1,000-hour commercially rated multi-engine instructor pilot and part-time real estate investor.
Ah, I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Yo,
Yes,
so
sir.
with you being an instructor, you're now down in Texas. So how's that transition going or been for you? Like going from, I guess, the fleet to down there where you're in more of an instructor position. Like, do you have more time, less time? Like, how's that been?
Man, it's been a blessing, bruh. Actually, so it was my first choice leaving my fleet squadron. So for everybody who doesn't know, leaving the Naval Academy, you can go into a range of different fields, Marine Corps, surface
Right.
warfare, submarines, and I chose aviation. So you initially do a 3-year tour on your first billet, whatever that may be, and then after your first 3-year tour, you do a short tour. So that's how the Navy tries to reel you in to get you to stay in for more years. So my first choice was to come down to Corpus Christi, Texas, where I'm currently a multi-engine instructor pilot, teaching students who selected platforms like the E6 and P8, MV, 22 Osprey, what else? KC 130, stuff like that. How to fly a multi-engine and principles of multi-engine flight. So really the big ticket down here is to accumulate hours, right? The end goal is to be a pilot for UPS or FedEx or maybe even Delta once I get done with my military career. And then, run up the bands from there, dog. So it's been great. It's been a blessing.
Man, that's gonna be. Bro, I can't wait. I can't wait to see that. I just want to step on a plane one day and be like, "Yo, my pilot is my LB."
Yeah, this is your captain speaking. Eric will be like, wait a minute. That's like it.
Yep. So, since you've been down there, um, did you purchase property?
Yes. So, man, real estate, what a crazy opportunity, or what a roller coaster has been in the real estate market, right? So, long story short, yes, I bought a single family home down here. It was a 3-2 cookie cutter house. I bought it at the end of last year. I got it at a really good interest rate, right? Right now, interest rates are 7-8%, something absurd.
Yeah.
So I was able to get it at the bottom of the interest rate market, but I paid premium pricing for the house that I currently live in. So this is my second property that I bought. Originally, the original game plan was to buy a fourplex down here. I was under contract for a quadplex. Inspection didn't go how I wanted it to, so I wasn't able to pull the trigger on that. But this has been good, and will hopefully be fruitful in the future since my interest rate is so low. I'll be able to capitalize on that as far as renters are concerned and stuff like that in the future. So, but yeah, that's my real estate investment down here. And then just kind of leading off of that as well, I said semi real estate investor. So I also have a property in Washington State. Something I learned from Fullwood a long time ago. He's a mentor of ours, or a man that we kind of refer to when it comes to real estate. He was smart in that subject when we were getting into the game. Was to try to buy real estate at every one of your duty stations,
Mm.
right? So the VA loan is such an incredible tool for us to use as military members, as you're all too well familiar with.
Yeah.
So if you can purchase multiple properties under the VA loan, you put no money down, and the only thing you're required to do is pay the monthly mortgage. So um, cash cow out there, and then the same game plan is to monetize this property once I leave out of here too.
So I know you said you started looking for a fourplex, and but you ended up getting a 3-2 single family home. Now, a lot of people wouldn't have gotten a fourplex and would have just said forget it, but you kind of adjusted. So how did you go about that situation without letting the fact that you didn't get your first choice affect your decision to still make an investment?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So, in my opinion, right, with limited real estate investment experience, I think about a quadplex in a manner of like hedging your bet, right? So if you own a quadplex, you're able to fill each unit and always put some of that money towards the mortgage, right? You'll usually have 50%, 2 units or more filled in a quadplex, which will usually cover your mortgage, and then the third or fourth unit is usually where you cash flow, right? For me, I was going to house hack, right? Live in one of the units, have the other three tenants pay for the other 3 units, standard house hacking principles. Didn't work out. And I thought about raising interest rates. I also thought about, hey, where did I want to live? And it kind of worked out to where the opportunity was available for me to go ahead and purchase property. This house I got at a premium, but I got at a great interest rate, which will allow me to rent it later. So if I didn't buy property when I wanted to, then I kind of would have been looking back now saying, why didn't I purchase property? Because interest rates may never, you know, for the rest of our lifetime, go back down to 2.5, 2.25%. So in retrospect, I'm super happy that I did buy. And it just kind of freed up a little bit more cash for me to invest elsewhere to keep looking for property. So I'm still in the market every day looking for houses. I mean, I literally look at Zillow and Realtor.com every day, bro, just to see what's popping up on the market. But yeah, that was kind of the flex there is I knew interest rates were going to go up, and I also needed a place to live. So the opportunity was just there for me to look, find what I liked, and pull the trigger.
So even within that home, we talk a lot about house hacking. You like me, trust others, and even for you, right? Like, so you have the 3-2. Have you house hacked and rented out a room in the current place to still get some cash flow, maybe, or cut down on what you're paying on the mortgage?
Yeah, absolutely. Etienne Sierra, guess you had one of the bros, good dude, was living here with me, right? So it works for both parties, right? I get to save a little bit of money per month because he's subsidizing what I'm paying each month. So he gets a really good price for a home to stay at a really good price in a really good house. And then I also get to save money each month on the mortgage because he's living here as well. So really there really is, it really depends on what you value, right? If you need your personal space or, if you don't want a house hack. But I mean, you look at the cost over time and the money you save over time with having someone living with you, man. I mean, you can't beat it, right? And if you have a empty room or 2 empty rooms or 3 empty rooms in a house and you're living by yourself, paying a $2,000 or $1,500, whatever your mortgage is a month, I would highly encourage you to look into house hacking and consider living with someone who may not be your best friend, but it's a symbiotic relationship where you're both benefiting, right, from the amount of cash that you're both putting towards one payment. So
Yeah.
because right, it works twofold. I'm subsidizing my mortgage with what I get from whoever I'm house hacking with, and in return, the person you live with gets to live in a really nice location at a fraction of the cost, right? So it
Yeah.
works both ways. So
And that's
um,
those I think it's important for people to recognize that situation can be mutually beneficial, right? And I think
yeah, absolutely.
a key part of that, and something that sounds like you're expressing as well, is that even though it may not be ideal, right? Like as an adult, we always feel like we want to be on our own and have our own space, and like, I can't have anyone's space. But it's like, yo, what's the mission, right? And
Yeah, good point.
this thing can help me get to where I need to be a little faster. Like, cool, if I need to have rent these rooms out for a year, yeah, I may not like it, but on the other end of it, that that couple $1,000s that you were able to put away into something that helps you, achieve the greater goal, that thing's going to seem so much less insignificant than it did at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very good point. And to that point, it's good to live with somebody too, right? So, just like, I mean, I'm sure you've house hacked before, like,
Oh,
um,
since I've been here.
since you've been there, dog, right? Like, you can talk about the benefits. Like, it goes beyond just money, right? Building friendships and relationships, right? Outside of people you may not know, right? Like, when Etienne was living, at the crib, people who he would associate with, I would get to meet them and build my network, right? It goes well outside of the bounds. Just, hey, cut me my check, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, hey, let me build a new network, or like, what do you do on a daily basis, and how can I learn and grow from what you do on a day-to-day basis too? So definitely works out for the better.
That's huge. I mean, I think that goes a lot into being able to see, I get what they call it, the silver lining, right? Like, you can
Yeah,
look at the situation and think about every reason why you don't want to, or you could look at it and say, okay, what are the benefits that I can gain from this? And that's a completely different way of looking at it. So I think that's a very excellent point that people could take away from this right now is, you went in like, hey, okay, but not only do I get him and, this little bit of cash flow, but also because of the type of person that I brought into my home, I know the type of people that he's going to bring around, which only adds to my network. And what's the saying? Your network is your what? Your
is
net
your
worth.
net worth.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
exactly.
Like, so
Right.
it all
Yeah.
plays out together very well. Like I think, like for me, bro, I've been house hacking since I've been here. Like it's a running joke now. Like my homie Paige, Paige, she called me
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other
no better.
day and she was like, yo, so who's living in the rooms now? And I'm like, God, nobody. It's just me now. She's like, what? You ain't. She's like,
Wait,
by
what's going on,
yourself?
dog? You good?
And I'm like, yeah, I'm things changing now. I don't need it, but it was great, man. There's times I went. There was times I didn't pay my mortgage really for a year because I had both rooms
Right.
rented out and like they were paying the mortgage, which freed that money up to go so many other places.
For
It's like,
sure. Right.
yeah, ideally, like I would have liked to be in my own space, right? But the bigger picture was always there. I'm whatever. Like, oh, people
Right.
may not put things the way I wanted. They may not be as clean as I want them to be. Like, but that's just conversations, right? So that's one of the important things that can come from it too. You learn how to conversate, right?
Yeah,
If like
facts. Right.
if I don't, hey, you just, hey, bro, I don't. Can you do it this way or blah blah? I normally put this here. Here's why, and it's like, oh, okay,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, that didn't even have to be a big deal. Like here we are, it's done and it's over with. But people see it as, oh, well, they don't do this. I just talk.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing too, man. I mean, just as, homeowners or property owners, as well as just like people in general, man, like everything in life is just a conversation. And a lot of times people unfortunately are scared to have crucial conversations. And that's actually a book that I talked to you about recently. Is, there's two modes, or there's two links to everything when it comes to communication. There's your internal communication with yourself as far as emotional intelligence,
Mm.
and then there's your external communication, and that's how, I reference the book Critical Conversations, right? So, you know, on a day-to-day basis, hey, you come home from work, you've had a long day from your 9 to 5, and someone's in your space, like, all right, your body is going to naturally have a reaction to whatever you do in life, right? You can't control the chemical reaction that will occur in your body, right? But you can understand that chemical reaction. You can understand what your body is reacting to, and then carry yourself appropriately, right? Which is internal communication with yourself. Hey, I may not want someone in my space, or I may not, I may feel some type of way about this, that, or something different, but I recognize it, I internalize it, and now I know why I'm feeling the way I feel, and that's okay, right? So it's internal, and then it's external with crucial conversations. Knowing how to communicate with people and knowing how to listen, right? Communication as a critical skill in aviation is a two-way street, right? You have to give information, and then you have to know that your receiver interpreted the information that you gave, right? So just like a podcast, we're feeding off of each other, right? We're listening, we're understanding. You can't just talk to yourself, because a lot of people, will do that. They'll just talk at you and not listen and receive information as well. So that was a pretty long tangent, that I just went on, but yeah.
Now that was a good. Those are good, important things, though, right? Like even breaking down communication like that, because that's been something that even me personally, I've been diving into. More like these books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. You got books like, what is it, the Art of Communication,
Hmm.
the Art of Storytelling. Like everything that
Right.
you do revolves around communicating, right? And I think I think if more people put more of an emphasis to be able to explain things better, um,
Hmm.
one, that would help, right? But in order to do that, one of the things I always say is, in order to really be able to explain or tell someone what's going on, you have to do the work first to really understand the problem you're facing.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
if I don't understand my problem, I can't tell you what's going on.
Facts. And yeah, and then there's a communication breakdown, right? Because the receiver and the sender are talking about two different topics. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
So now I'm assuming, based off of what we used to think, we already, we think everybody that fly get the nice life anyways, right? Us ground
Yeah,
people come
dog.
over there sleeping in holes, and y'all going to
Hey, you a
hotels.
ground marine, bro. Thank you for your service, dog. Thank you for your service, bro. Pay this man.
But hey, so you know, if you have, I'm assuming you have a little bit more free time or time to focus on things that matter than you would typically in an operational unit, right? So, um, what are some things that you've been able to implement to help you move forward as far as your financial goals go? If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
good. Yeah, good question. So basically, you're saying now that I have a little bit more free time in my short tour, what am I devoting that time to
Mm-hmm.
help me, move forward financially? Yeah, good question. So I'm going to be perfectly honest with everyone, including you, Eric. Right? Like, so you make a decent amount of money as a military officer, right? Whether you got it out the mud, if that's your term, or whether you came from money or not, right? You make a decent amount of change being in the military. So in my first squadron in Washington State, I was in Whidbey Island, Washington State for a while. I didn't really have a plan for my money. Like I made money and I was like, all right, I'm doing good. Like I know I'm financially free. And I know this is a lot of people out there. It's just like how do I round out the edges on this, what I'm doing with my money? Because I really don't have a dedicated space to like think about and budget my money, right?
Mm.
So now that I have time, I've really gotten into budgeting my funds and knowing where to specifically allocate money to what I want to accomplish. So with that being said, every month, right, when I get my check, approximately 20% of my paycheck I don't even see and I don't even touch, right? I don't touch and I don't even see it every month. So, right, you make approximately six figures as a naval officer, O3, blah, 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 whatever. 20% of that after taxes is money I'll never see or touch until I'm ready to touch it and I want to, use those funds how I see fit. After that, I take my money. So, well, within that, I have IRA, I have individual stock investments, I have short-term funds that I invest in. Um, what else? What else? A couple of other small little funds that I invest in there, and then I also have every month I take a percentage of my check and put it aside for when I'm ready to purchase real estate for my short-term investments that I'm taking out every month. I can touch that money immediately and invest in real estate.
Mm. So, two questions from that. First one being, ensuring I'm was ensuring that you cut down all of your consumer debt prior to doing all this. Was that step one for you? Like, was that critical to being able to do what you did now for you?
It was, and that was an unforeseen thing that just kind of naturally happened for me, right? So, like with you, you're a financial specialist, so you know the things that are important step by step to get you to your financial goal. With me, it just kind of happened organically.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit here and say like, yep, every month, boom, 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 XYZ. I did this to allocate funds to
Yeah,
relieve my debt, but it
that's
naturally
real though.
happened.
That's
Yeah,
real
that's
though.
real. Like, yeah, and I became debt free as as far as my vehicle. Right, I still have two mortgages that I have to pay for, but
I
small
don't count that.
consumables every month.
I don't
I
count
don't
that.
count that because that's making me money. Right,
Yeah.
a conversation we've had. Um, but because of that, now I have more money to allocate towards my 20% each month. Right, and then putting money aside to invest in real estate.
Mm. Now,
So
second
that,
question.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so that, like I said, that was just kind of something that happened naturally, right? I was able to become debt free because I was making my payments and I was making additional payments here and there. Nothing too crazy. Like I wasn't
Yeah,
doubling my payment every month, but I would throw like an extra 1,000 to my car
yeah.
here and there, and finally got it paid off, which ended up working out.
But still, I want to emphasize that even though it's just an extra thousand, right? That extra thousand on principle makes a huge difference, right? Because you talk about amortization,
Right.
now you're knocking down the principal on that payment. It's starting off as a interest heavy payment. There comes a point where that shifts, and you go from a little bit of that money that you're paying every month actually going towards paying down the vehicle to almost all of it paying down the vehicle just by paying down the principal.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And, that's something a lot of people don't know, right? There is a shift. So when you're paying a mortgage or paying a car payment, you're not paying $800 a month towards your car. You're paying $450 to $500 in interest until a certain period where the principal now takes precedent over the interest payment. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that just kind of naturally happened. And now it's nice to see the fruit of paying, making additional payments, because small payments towards the principal early can actually make a drastic difference in the amount of time that you pay for something long term.
Mm-hmm. Which the key thing, I need a button. I need a button to be able to press when I'm about to like buzz up
Buzzer
this
beater.
video. But but you know, one of the most important parts about that is the faster you pay it down, the less interest you pay over time, right? Because people understand, the simple
Yeah.
interest formula
Yeah.
is principal times rate times time, right? And that'll give you how much interest you're going to pay over that amount of time. Well, if you
Hmm.
cut down the amount of time that you're paying on it, you're going to drastically cut the amount of interest that you're paying overall, right? Like you might
Right.
pay 20 bands for a car, but with the interest rate, over 5 years, 60 months, you might pay 26,000, 28,000 for that vehicle over the lifespan of you making those payments. That's a huge difference when you can cut that down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a small sacrifice, that you have to make early, and that's why budgeting is important. So back to your original question, right, Eric, was, you know, what have I done now that I have more time? And it has been being significantly more deliberate to where I put my money, because now I can focus my time on doing that. And I wouldn't say that necessarily my investment goals have shifted, but now I can truly track what's going on with my money and feel confident that, hey, I am placing my money in the right position. And man, there's so many different avenues, bruh, when it comes to investing, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like you can invest in individual stocks, you can do, your retirement 401k, Roth IRA, or you can just say screw that all together and
Mm-hmm.
invest in, short-term funds, indexes now. You can invest in crypto, you
Yep.
can invest in real estate,
Yep.
you can invest in businesses, right? And it's a matter
NFTs.
of whatever it is, man, it's like crazy the opportunity, and a lot of people just don't see that, right? And if you're sitting at home and it's like, man, I wish I started saving earlier. Well, hey, now's the time, right?
Yeah.
Now's the time to start saving, because tomorrow's too late.
And tomorrow turns to never real quick.
Facts,
And
facts.
that's something I try to get people to avoid is, and that's something I work on too, right? It's like I know some people like, for a while people are like, you a little extreme. But it's like for me, I want to make sure that I'm really internalizing and taking the actions, right? So like something like that where it's taking the small actions every day. I do it even too. Like you say something simple like the dishes, right? Like I can tell myself, I'll do it tomorrow. But why? Why would I leave that problem for tomorrow when I have to already worry about tomorrow?
Facts. Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like
absolutely.
I try to implement that a lot. Like granted, like if there's just tasks, like cool, that can be a part of the day tomorrow. But if that's a problem I created today and I can fix it, why give myself more work tomorrow? Like and
Right.
that's I think something that gonna be important, but kind of because you hitting on a bunch of good points and you hitting on something that exactly that's going into my next question right now. So my next
Okay.
question is you mentioned multiple things that you're looking into investing. You talked about stocks and RIAs and Roth IRAs and the average person hearing all of that, it sounds like Charlie Brown, like womp 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 womp, right? It's intimidating.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I want to ask first before we jump into it. Did did you grow up in an environment that taught you about stocks RIAs, buying properties, out of that. Like when you know what I'm saying, when you were growing up, when you went to college or became an adult, like what was your knowledge base like of that?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. What I mean, that's something I got to think about. What was my background? Uh, I came from a background where my mom and dad would always tell me, "Hey, make sure to save your money, right? Make sure
Mm-hmm.
to save your money. It's never too early to start saving." But I never really got any tangible examples about what that meant,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, hey, here's your Christmas money. Everybody couldn't wait for Christmas as a kid, right? I didn't even read the card. I just went
Yo,
straight to
you
see
just
how much money right was in the card.
why
All
this
right,
car
boom, I
empty?
got a yeah, I ain't even read that whole, you know what I'm saying? So excuse my language, but it was like, here's X amount of money, right? Now, what do I do with that? Now, as a kid, you probably can't do a lot because you don't know what you don't know. You may not have a
Mhm.
checking account or savings account. But that was something that was instilled in me from when I was young. So I've always been very, very frugal,
Mm.
right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And don't mistake me when I say frugal with being cheap, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a drastic difference between being frugal and being cheap, right? Frugality is buying something that you will need and something that you will use over a
Mm-hmm.
long period of time, right? So if you're on your laptop every day and you buy $1,000 laptop, right? Your laptop costs $3 a day, right? But if you go and you buy a $300 laptop and it costs $1 a day, but it's cheap, it may break, but you could have bought, right,
Mm-hmm.
the more expensive laptop and had it and used it and had better quality for whatever you're doing. So that's something that was really instilled in me at a young age, was to save, but the actions of actually doing the saving was something that I just learned throughout life, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to be perfectly honest with you, meeting, becoming a part of Omega, going to the United States Naval Academy, um, just becoming a man and growing into my own outright, doing my own research and studying. I figured that out throughout the years. So yeah, that's how that started.
So now, for instance, like all the stocks and investing and all of this stuff. Now, for you, because I know that you probably didn't have like just the knowledge of how to do it, right? So I'm assuming you had to take some time to say, "Hey, I want to learn about this," and you actually had to sit down and take the time to actually start learning about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And there's learning pains associated with everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny how God humbles you throughout your experiences of learning, because I at one point I was trading, I was day trading, I was short trading, I was like doing, puts and sales and thinking I knew everything about the game. And I got burnt day trading,
It
short
happens.
selling stocks that I had no business trading on. And after that experience, I kind of slowed down and dialed back and really was like, hey, what am I really doing here? And just took the time to research. Like, it's funny how a simple Google search can really expand your knowledge of like the subject that you're trying to learn about, because
Mm-hmm.
another topic or sentence will pop up in that same search and be like, man, I don't even know how to read a candlestick, or I don't even know what this graph line means. Like, let me research that
Mm-hmm.
and compare these tools and to see how to invest. So yeah, definitely take the time to, and it's opportunity cost too, right? So, if you take the time to learn now and become a master of your skill, that opportunity cost that you're using is worth drastically more throughout your lifetime than you just being, not really a student of what you want to invest in or what you want to do. So
Yeah, and that's that's tough because I speak with a lot of people who feel like they hear it and say, I just don't know how to do it. And it's like, nobody knows how to do it until they learn, right? And people are scared of, you know, getting it wrong. But it's like, it's not, you're not, if you're sitting here and you're doing stuff, there's two phases to it, right? There's taking the time to learn everything, right? And you give yourself that time. You ask the right questions. You're meeting the right people to really increase your knowledge and move your path forward towards that goal. But the second part, and that's part, and that probably the most crucial part of that equation is actually taking the time to apply the things that you're learning. And
Right.
there's people who sit here and they're, oh yeah, I done studied all of this and I done read all of this, and it's like, but you're not doing any of it.
Yeah,
Like,
good point. I
and
mean, what's the point of that if you don't apply it?
yeah, because like there's book knowledge, right? And then there's the applied knowledge. And that
Right.
it's very different. The real life now, this is just to give you the guidelines, right? This is the science. The art comes from practice.
Yeah, I
People
like that. Yeah.
people expect to read, take a course, read a book, learn about it, and then just be an expert. No, the expert comes from experience, and the experience comes from time and attempts.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And what's it take? 10,000 hours to become a master or an expert of a topic or a subject, right? So imagine spacing that out throughout your lifetime. You definitely got to put the time in, and that's just on one subject, right?
Yeah.
So
And another piece too that makes this, I think, makes this crucial. And you see us around here and how we move, but I think it become when you start making goals for yourself to really push your life forward and to start making changes and making achievements that actually matter to you, the people you spend time with become exponentially more important, right? Because I know that I can get on the phone and call you, Etienne, Trust, and be like, hey, look, I'm trying to figure out how to do X, X, and X. I think this would be good for all of us. Here's why, boom, 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 boom. And the only thing is going to say, okay, when we're starting, when are we going to start? And everybody starts figuring it out and coming back and giving me information and we push, right? And that's a very different
right,
situation than, like, yo, uh, I got this fourplex. I think we can all go on it. Yo, here's how much we can cash flow. We can do this, boom, boom. This goes into that. Then we can build out here, as opposed to like, yo, bro, why are we going to do that? We already got a place to stay. Like that's going to be a lot of work, bro. Like, that's,
yeah,
because here's my favorite response for people when they complain about something being a lot of work, right? Is like, and I'd be like, so as opposed to what? What are you going to do instead?
yeah. That's a good point. That's a very good point, bro. It's kind of like when it comes to people like complaining about sports athletes, like, oh, get him out the game. He's trash. It's like, well, what's the alternative, right? You don't want to spend time investing in your future. You don't want to spend time or your money, right, or your funds to increase your portfolio. What else are you going to do with it, right?
Yeah,
Let's make action. Let's take action, right? Let's build these funds. Let's build this real estate portfolio and not just sit back and complain, right?
yeah.
So
And people don't realize it can be fun, right? Like if you get the right people, you and your homies and everybody, y'all on the same energy. It doesn't have to be this daunting task that you just have to get done every night. Like y'all can get together and be like, all right, cool. Hey, we're gonna learn this, this, and this. All right, you take this chat, you take this one, come back. Like it could be a party, music
yeah,
playing, you learning stuff.
yeah,
You
right,
still hanging out, you still having a good time, but you also get to go to sleep knowing that you moved the ball forward today, and like you do this, for a little while longer, and there's gonna be a nice reward for you on the other side. Like, why would you not want to do that with your friends instead of wasting all your time and your money and your effort doing things that don't matter? See that, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, we could talk about this topic all night, bro. I 100% agree with you, bro. It's like you gotta have the right people in your circle, right, to create your will to move forward. And if you got one spoke that's not strong enough to carry that weight, now the tire is flat, right? I don't need you in my circle. Like, let's keep this pushing. You might be a good person in your heart, right? Or I may just have to distinguish my friendship with you from my circle for moving forward. So, um, definitely
Yeah.
some,
I mean,
some
what is it?
something to
The
consider.
fifth the fifth law of the Navy.
Hey, the strength of one link in the cable. Don't get me started, dog.
Hey, I'm telling you, if y'all aren't familiar with the fifth law of the Navy, y'all should Google that. It's actually pretty
I'll
dope.
tell them what it is. On the strength of one link in the cable, dependent the might of the chain, who knows when thou mayest be tested, so live that thou bearest the strain. That's what it is. Right? So if you got a weak link in your chain, in your circle, you should consider who you're hanging out with for sure.
Mm. Yeah, man, that's big. So, what are your do you have any like long term goals right now?
Long-term goals, yeah, man. So I mean, I could give you the power play, right? The overall umbrella of what I'm working towards is we kind of touched on it earlier in the podcast or the video was to become a United Parcel Services pilot, right?
Mhm.
UPS pays airline pilots or aviation transport pilots the most money out of every airline, out of every major, out of every legacy
Oh
right
wow.
now. So if you can be a part of the team that wears brown pants to work, you're gonna be good, right? You are gonna start creating generational wealth, right? I got a couple of mentors who are UPS pilots, and they're, the stories that they tell me about just the money that they can make, man, is absolutely insane. I mean, five, five figures over a weekend is crazy.
Sheesh.
Um, but so from a work career standpoint, that's my long term goal. From a longevity standpoint, from my life standpoint, um, is to really own a large plot of land in the DMV area. I don't know if I had this conversation with you or not yet, Eric,
Nah,
but is to have 10 or more acres in the Maryland area.
Mhm.
Have that land to where I can buy dirt bikes and four wheelers and be happy with my family. Have my lady doing her little garden work, and I got my little side ventures. I'm working on my '69 Camaro, and I'm able to do that because my 9 to 5, which a lot of people think is a bad thing, which is not,
It's not.
is going to pay me, X amount of money per month. I'm going to work 10 to 14 days a month, travel the world, and on my day off, I can really take that time to just pursue my passion or just be at peace with being at home and enjoying the fruits of my labor, right? So that's the long term goal. Travel the world with that free time with the ones that I love, with my boys and with my friends, and man, just enjoy life, man. It's kind of crazy to see and to think about the opportunities that we have in our life, and you only get one to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know
So
that that's huge, and
yeah.
that's a key piece. Is once you realize that, there's no rewind button.
There's not, man. There's no rewind button on life, bruh. There's not.
Yeah, so why not wake up every day and try to enjoy it? Because the alternative is, you wake up 60 years later and you're like, man, I knew I should have did that.
Bro, imagine waking up as a 60-year-old and you wake up in a cold sweat and you're like, man, I messed up.
but but that's
I did not set myself up for success.
and it's
You laugh, but it's not funny. Like
that's real life.
that's a nightmare. Yeah,
Real life. Like, bro, that's
you are what you create. Based off the decisions, the voluntary decisions that you make right now will be who the person you are. Will be the person who you are tomorrow. So yeah,
you know, that's that's huge because if you if, we say all the time, right? Like if I sit down with anyone and look at where they are in life, and we look at the decisions they made to get to that point, they're either going to show why they were successful or why they're having some issues, right? And there's key pieces that go into making the right decisions. Two big pieces being discipline and accountability, right? Especially self accountability. You know,
yeah,
I think for anyone, the only the only way to truly be able to progress is to stop blaming other people and things for why you aren't accomplishing things, because once you do that and take ownership, you've told yourself that all the power, all the control is with you, so you get to make the decision whether you're going to do it right or wrong. And that's huge
yeah,
because once you it's not different that I that's my fault. That tells yourself that, so I do have some control in this, and
yeah.
because I
And you
have
can self correct, right? You
mm-hmm,
can self correct because you're able to make or recognize the decision you made and how it impacted whatever happened,
mm-hmm,
and then self correct, right? Kind of like to think. I can always, find some analogy to aviation, right? As an as
I
a
love
as an
it.
aviation instructor, right? We like to think about kind of like your safety bubble, right? Is like right here, and you want to allow your student to operate within your safety bubble and move in the right direction. So same as when you take accountability for your choices, you can operate within that bubble and self-correct and move in the direction that you want to go.
Yes, yes, that's I like
So
these plane references, bro. I
yeah,
might have to
dog.
steal a couple of them.
Yeah, and you know what? Going back to that big goal scenario, that big dream. You remember we had the conversation about taking your golf cart to your private runway?
Yes, I was just
Yeah,
tell
that's
2 days
also in the
ago. I
works
just
as
told
well.
somebody that story.
So for the people who don't know, right, there are these communities throughout the world, in the US specifically, that have, like, these gated communities out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, they have runways on them, right? And these people who are drastically more successful than the average man wake up, sip on their tea or their coffee, whatever they choose, right? And they think, what's my power play today? How will I increase my net worth and multiply my generational wealth? Oh, Eric's having a financial coaching class in Philadelphia. Cool. I'm gonna hop on my private jet and go see him and network with everyone that's coming to his class, right? After his class, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna land at my airport, hop in my golf cart, drive home to my wife, and go to bed, right? Like,
Yeah.
imagine the type. You talk about time and buying your time back, bro. Like, imagine that.
Ooh. That's a huge buying your time back, right? That's a that's a huge piece. We talking about that in the Commander Lifestyle seminar. You were there, and like,
And if you haven't tuned in to this man's Commander Lifestyle seminar, you need to tune in. I will
hey,
be at the next one.
appreciate that. Appreciate that. We just trying to
Yeah,
really trying to give people answers, man. And it's like, one of the things we know is like people are alone and people don't have the answers, and that sometimes people also don't know what questions to ask. It's like, or they don't
right,
feel comfortable, right? So we creating that all this in the smoker Commander Lifestyle is all about building that environment where people feel comfortable to one come and ask for help, right? Because that's a critical piece. And for me, that was hard forever, right? I always did stuff on my own. I'm getting it done, blah blah, until the
yeah,
moment to
yeah,
the moment that I couldn't get it done on my own, right? And
okay,
I had a decision to make. I'm gonna either be
uh,
prideful and deal with ego and let this situation drive me somewhere that's gonna, drastically change the trajectory of my life, or I'm gonna eat it and it's like, yo, I'm gonna ask for help. And once I did that, bro, it's been up ever since. I don't care. I don't. You're not gonna think I'm dumb, right? And what I realized is when you asking the right people, because it's all about asking the right people for help as well, right?
yeah.
And
That's a good point.
you
Yeah,
people are typically scared to ask for help from people because they don't want to get judged and they don't want to, anybody think that they're not smart and things like that. But if you're
right.
asking the right person for help or asking the right person for guidance, that's never going to be a worry because they're like, oh, this person's trying to do something. Cool, let me give you the answer. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
very as
yeah,
opposed to you. Of course, if you go ask somebody who's not even in that same realm, right, or not a good person, because that's one of the things I tell people. One of the things I live by is, yo, if I wouldn't want to emulate you, I probably don't want your advice. Like if you're not a person that whose character I think is good, and then you like a slimy individual, I don't care how smart you are and how successful you are if you're a terrible person, because all of that goes together. And I'm not about to stick around and pick up all your negative traits. Like, oh, you got to do it this way. You do it like, no, bro. It has to be
yeah,
no. You know what I'm saying? And like,
right.
you got to really look at who you're going to seek for help, and don't always go to where you're comfortable, right? Sometimes you might have to
Mm,
go and earn a person's time, and I say earn, right? Because
mm,
don't I hate when people mistake the fact is like, yo, just because I ask you for your time, you have to give it. Time is one of the currency that is irreplenishable. I can't get that back, right? And so making sure that you're asking the questions to the right people will not only get you farther, but it also will save you a lot of stress and heartache. Like, you ask the wrong person and you get the wrong response and you're already super vulnerable, you might not ever ask a question again, and you plateaued right there. Wherever you are right now might be where you're at for the rest of your life.
yeah, bro. Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even think about that last point. I mean, you could, man, you just gotta. Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Like, being vulnerable enough to ask questions, but also realizing, like, it's important to know who you're asking, who your audience is, right? Because if you get shot down in your moment of, like, your utmost vulnerability, like, it may be hard to rebound back from that. Um, So yeah, that's a good point. And like another point to that too is like it takes a village as well, right? I'm sure you've heard that term.
Absolutely.
And that's not necessarily talking about, oh, I'm gonna get raised by the old heads, they're gonna teach me my way of life. Like that's your
Nah.
circle too, right? Like, that's the people you hang with, man. Like it takes a village to just, get the cheat codes for life, man. And yeah, you can't do this life thing alone. You gotta have someone to lean on, you gotta have mentors. Um a friend of mine asked me this other day, like, who do I turn to, in my times of need, which is a really good question. Um, that's something you need to think about. Like, who do you call on in your times of need, right? When you're in your deepest, darkest hole. Obviously, hopefully, you can climb out of that, but it feels good when you have a hand reaching down to be like, hey, I got you, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on, you can do this,
Yeah.
right? And then that reignites your fire and being like, man, I made it out of this. Like, if I can make it out of this, I can make it out of anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm. You know,
yeah,
and to hit on that too, everyone knows if it's one thing Eric always preaches is group economics. You know what I'm saying? I
facts.
I
Yeah,
firmly believe that five of us can do it a lot better than one of us. You know what I mean? Two of us, three of us can do a lot better than one, right? And
yeah.
that that only works when people one don't care who gets the credit, right? Like, hey, if everybody's eating, why do you
Which is
care?
tough. Those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. That's hard to do. But
Mm-hmm.
continue. I didn't want to interrupt you, but
No,
that's a
that's
very
nah,
good
you
point. But
that's that's
but
that's
to find unselfish people to put in your circle, bro, that's very hard to do sometimes.
mm-hmm. It is. And and that once again, because it's hard, people don't want to do it, right? But it's all about where you're going. Like, okay, let me start going to some of these places. Like, if half people you spend all day scrolling through Instagram, right? Like, well, if you look at some of these pages where people are talking about some stuff that's actually hitting you and see who else is looking at it, start having conversations. You know what I'm saying? That you don't
Yeah,
have to be
yeah,
crazy. There's all these apps, the Meetup app that have these different groups that are doing things. Like it. I try to look at things. I've changed the way I think about a lot of problems, right? And I don't see problems as a showstopper, right? Like it's like, oh well, Jacksonville is small, so I can't find any good people to hang around. Okay, well then go to Wilmington. You know what I'm saying? Like go to Fayetteville.
right.
Go to these different places. Like, yo, you looking
Yeah,
at it as a roadblock. Well, I'm looking for other solutions. Like that's
yeah, yeah.
that's the
That's a
mentality.
mindset thing. That's a mentality thing. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether you're looking for, people to be around, or if if you're looking, hey, say you've tried budgeting for a couple times and it didn't work. Well, instead of saying it doesn't work, sit down and see why it didn't work. Oh, well, it didn't work because I had the budgeting form, but I was waiting till the 31st of each month to actually fill it out. So it just ended up being me just telling myself what I spent as opposed to me tracking what I'm spending versus what I plan to spend, because I wasn't filling it out, daily and keeping track of it. Right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I haven't read any of the books that I wanted to read because I haven't actually put it in my schedule to make sure that I'm doing it every day. Right. And then
Yeah.
that jumps into another piece, is like people gotta people get excited when something new is going right. Like, oh, I got these books I'm about to read, right? And it's like, but you don't typically read. Like, you just got three books and you haven't read, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you every day, oh, I'm getting this book, and then all of a sudden it's 2 weeks, and then it's a month, and then it's 6 months, and then books just sitting there collecting dust, and it's like, well, why haven't I read it? It's because you're telling yourself you got to read all 300 pages in a day, right? And I once again, I try to implement these little practices in every piece of life, right? And it's like, yo, if you know you don't read and you're trying to build the habit of reading, don't try to read the whole book in a day, right? Go ahead and with your organization, put on your schedule on your Google Calendar, because Apple's got iPhones, or if you got a Android, whatever calendar app they use, right? You go in there, just schedule 10 minutes a day before you later. Hey, I have 10 minutes. This 10 minutes is for the book, right? And no matter
Yeah.
what, you're going to read that 10 minutes. And I guarantee just by that, you're going to have days where you might be reading an hour, but you know that you got to at least do the 10. But because you had to do the 10, you're more likely to do the hour.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's part of the habit forming, right? So that initial motivation is like, all right, I just got a new program. I'm gonna do this. I just spent, this amount of money, and it's like, all right, are you gonna really see it through, or are you going to just allow that initial dopamine hit right from starting something new drive you until it's gone, and then you're done with it, right? So forming good habits is definitely important.
Yeah, and so the habits are important too, right? Because we talk about, like, you were talking about your long-term goals, right? And
Right.
the habits that you've built and formed, right, throughout this time since you graduated from college to where you currently are in your professional career as a pilot, right? Um,
Hmm.
these lessons that you learn, because you didn't have to, right? There's not like a, you're guaranteed to learn these things if you're a naval pilot, right? It's not, that's not how it works. There's plenty of pilots that don't have, their stuff aligned. But,
Yeah.
because you've taken the time to do the work, it's not about more money, because you're not trying to solve anything by getting more money, right? You realize what's important. It's your time, it's spending time with, friends and family, building relationships, building memories. The money
Hmm.
is just that piece for security, that you can make sure that as a man you can provide what you need to when it's required, right?
Right.
And but because you've learned these lessons, now when you get there, you you're not getting, 5 figures over a weekend and be like, oh, let me just do this. No, there's a plan, right? So, like, because you've learned
Yeah.
how to plan now where you are, when you get there, you just know how to play a little bit better, right? And but it's also, you're not going to squander that money away, because you realize how important that tool, and yes, money's a tool. You understand how critical it is to know how to use that tool properly, because people don't recognize, just because you make a lot of money don't mean it can't go away just as quickly.
Right. And that's a comparison too, right? If you don't have good monetary habits now, they don't just come, right? Like if you spend, $1,000 every 2 weeks on buying clothes or shopping on Amazon, that stuff doesn't stop. Like you're forming bad habits, right? And you have to self correct, right, in order to move in the right direction. A prime example of this is you could, a person with very, very bad monetary skills, they could win the lottery, right? Hey, boom, you won $1 million. Congratulations. In retrospect, you would think that $1 million should be able to last you. You put that money up, right? I can live off that. I can monetize that. I can buy different things, and I can live off that for the rest of my life. Granted, caveat that, but to a person with bad spending habits, they're initially going to say, "Oh, I have this large lump sum of money. What do I want?" Is what comes to mind first, and not the mission, not the plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, what is my long term goal, and how can I use this tool, just like you talked about it, to help me build my long term goal? Instead, they're like, all right, let me think about my short term happiness with this money. All right, I'm gonna go buy a car. I'm gonna go, buy some new designer. I'm gonna go buy the new Balenciagas, right?
Yeah.
And then, oh, I got 78,000 left. Dang, I thought I had 1 million, right? And at that point, it's too late because you
Yep.
have bad spending habits, right? So
Mm-hmm.
take the time, sit down, use your programs, Eric. Like if you don't know, Eric has produced some great budgeting tools to get you moving in the right direction. And even if you don't use Eric's, like I'm not trying to promote,
Yeah,
but
whatever you
like
use.
whatever it is, form the good habits now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's never too late. And that just goes for anything, man. Like eating healthy, like making the right decision to not, you know, not get wasted every weekend. You don't have to drink every weekend. You don't have to eat bad. Now that
Mm-hmm.
comes, you should have fun and you should, take the time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but form good habits in every aspect of your life. And that overall net will be so much more over time. You might not get immediate gratification, but when you're 78 and running around with your grandkids and you see your friends can't get up and walk anymore because they're blown out, right? Overweight, don't have any money, right? That's when it's like, man, I really lived a good life, right? And you can do that now, enjoy the fruits of your labor, but look out for yourself, look out for your tomorrow self as well, right? And you got to form those good habits now in order to do that.
Yeah, I call it thinking beyond today. People
Exactly.
get so
Yeah.
caught up in the day-to-day activities that they're not thinking forward. And, like, because, like, one of the goals me and Trust made this year was to, like, be more present. And what I realized is, like, yo, the day, like the weeks are flying by. Like it's like, bro, it was just think about it. It's Thanksgiving this week. You know what I'm
Facts,
saying?
bruh.
Like
The
yo,
year is over. The year is almost over.
and it's there's a lot of people that I see that had big goals this year, and a lot of them, I tell you, like, yo, you can accomplish those. Like, oh, I want to pay down these debts. I want to do this, right? And it's like, absolutely, you can. But the problem is they don't want to give up the things that they want to do the things they need.
Right. And that's the direction you need to start to steer yourself towards, man. That delayed gratification. What do you say? Thinking beyond the now, thinking beyond
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
right? Like, yeah, man,
That
for
that
sure.
delayed gratification has so many benefits, and I told you, you got to fight against I call it the Amazon bug, whereas Amazon, you click a button, it's gonna be here in a day or two. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah,
everybody thinks that, oh, well, I made a budget on my computer. Why didn't I pay off all my debt today? And it's like, yo, my boy,
you
it don't
just
work
spent.
like that. Like, it's
Yeah,
I love comparing, kind of like finances to fitness, because I think they are very similar, right? Like, for if you're in the gym and you're trying to lose weight and you're not disciplined in the small things, like the what you're eating, keeping the macros, making sure you're putting in, the right exercise and burning the right amount of calories every day, you're not going to see the results that are necessary, right? Just like if you're trying to save more money, but you're eating out, 3 times a day, you're buying this movie and that movie on Amazon Prime, and then you every day you're scrolling through Amazon and buying something because it looks cool, right? And it's like, yo, all of that stuff doesn't matter. What's step
it
one?
doesn't. Right.
Step one is like, yo, what's required for me to keep this roof over my head, me functioning properly so that I can think? Hey, all right, I know the mortgage or the rent needs to be paid. I need the Wi-Fi, my phone bill, insurance, the car note, whatever. All these things need to be taken care of. For, oh, these are there. All right. Well, now what's my what situation am I in? Like, let me see how I oh well, um, I need actually I realized after sitting down and figuring out where I am, I actually need to make more money. Well, if I need to make more money, what does that look like? Can you get a promotion? Oh, what does it take to get a promotion? Or maybe you need to get a new job, which requires you to get a new skill, right? Well, now you know that, hey, to get this skill, I need to go do this, this, and this, right? And you're giving yourself action steps, but then you're going to actually do them, right? But you can't do it until you start step one.
I agree with you, and I ain't mean to cut you off there. 2 points to that, Eric. One is, throughout the time, I would listen to these podcasts and hear people speak about, hey, you need to form good habits, right? Like, you need to take these steps to better yourself as a man or a woman, um, for yourself for tomorrow, right? So what does that mean? Like, let me give you a tangible step. Let me do something for you. Let me give you a token, right?
Yeah.
Whatever your check is, if your goal is to save more money, I implore you to take $20 of that check and put it into your savings account.
Mm,
Form that habit. That is your tangible step, whoever is watching this, right? Take
mm,
$50 of your check and put it into your savings account. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, right? If you
yeah.
want the answer to form good habits, you have to make a decision now to do that, right? That doesn't just happen. You don't just scroll through the gram and be like, dang, that's a good idea. I'm gonna do that, right? Where does
Mm-hmm.
that go, right? You didn't put it on your calendar. You
Nope.
didn't put it on your checklist. You didn't
Your
put it on your
notes.
whiteboard. It went
Nothing.
in, it went in one ear and out the other. So I'm telling you to start saving money. Start with a goal, right? If your goal is to live a healthier lifestyle, I want you to call your closest gym tomorrow and ask them how much your membership is, right? And then guess what I want you to do? I want you to sign up,
And
right?
and then
Take
here's the big piece. After you sign up, actually go.
go to the gym, right? I watched this video. It was like, I signed up for the gym 6 months ago and I'm not seeing any results. I'm gonna go in tomorrow and see what's going wrong. It's like, you know what I'm saying? If you don't go in and use the tool that you just bought, it's not gonna work for you. And then secondly, I was looking down here for this quote, and I want you to tell me where this quote came from, Eric. You should know best out of everybody. Temporary satisfaction will never be worth sacrificing the work that you put in daily to reach your goals. You know who said that? And
That's
I
from my book.
screenshotted this. Huh?
Is that from my book?
Yes,
I'm
bro.
about to say
Well,
that
it
sounds
was.
like it's from my book.
This is you. This is Eric Johnson, bro. And I'll date this back, and you can put it on. You can dub this over later. This was in 2019, bro. You said that on IG, and I screenshotted it.
Oh
And that's
wow.
one of the things. Yes, bro. And I have it in my phone still here. I'll send it to you after the podcast is over. Is that temporary satisfaction? I'll say it again. Temporary satisfaction will never be worth sacrificing the work that you put in daily to reach your goals. Right? Think about
I
that.
said that.
Hey, that's my LB, dog. That's my news, dog. You said it.
Oh
I'm
man.
just regurgitating the knowledge, right? It's crazy the nuggets you'll pick up when you listen to people who you care about. Um,
Oh man.
but yeah, it's like, right? So you work every day. All right, man, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna go to the gym. I went to the gym 3 times this week. I deserve a little cold stone. No, you don't, right? No,
Mm.
don't sacrifice that time you put in just because you want a little temporary satisfaction.
Yeah,
So
and that's a good example because it's like the one I like to use, right? Like, yo, if you make, you know, $10 an hour and you want to go buy a pair of $300 shoes, how many hours would you have to work for that pair of shoes, right? And all of a sudden, those shoes start to get a lot less interesting when you think of it in that manner, right? Like, yo,
yeah.
I worked this many hours, and this is what I went to do.
30 hours of my life for these.
And I'll never get them back, and all I got is these shoes. Come on now,
Yeah.
like I could have went so many different places, even if it just went into, you know, IRA or shoot, even a high interest savings account, right? Just something to where it's doing something for you. So but that requires people to start, just thinking a little differently. And but too, like I think another big piece is people, COVID kind of did it, but I don't know, and I can see like a change is occurring, but people need to really sit down, take some time with themselves, and ask themselves what they really want, because that's going to help them determine how a lot of this is going to go for them, right? Like maybe they don't want, to build generational wealth and they want all these things and they just want to be comfortable so they can travel and just hang with family. Cool. Well, what is that number that you need to be able to do
To
that?
do that.
Right? Like,
Right.
well, and all right, well, I need to pay if I can. A lot of people, if I just pay off this debt, I'd be cool. Yo, well then the faster you do it, the faster you live the life you want, right? Like,
right.
and then
Right.
for the people
Right.
that want to build wealth, well, all right, cool, cool. Step one, you pay off your debt. Now, then I hear, this is one of the questions that I get sometimes, and I, it makes my blood boil. It's like, well, I'm gonna save the money. I don't know what to do with it. I'm gonna just go have fun. It's like, yo, the point isn't for you to know what to do with the money just because you have, if you're putting it away. The point is, as you're learning, I'd rather have 70 grand sitting there that when I learn what I can do, when I get an opportunity, I can take it, as opposed to being like, oh well, you could do this, but you got to find 70 grand in X amount of time. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
so you don't need to know what to do with it. What's the saying? Like we used to say it all the time in the Marine Corps, deploying stuff. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's an important mindset for people who ask that question, like, well, why would I save the money? I don't know what to do with it. Yo, the only way to know what to do with it is to start asking the questions, doing the work, and figuring out which direction to go. What 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 do people do to grow money? That's a how do I grow my money? You just go on Google, right? Just how do I grow my money? Well, what's options trading? Or hey, what is real estate
Yeah.
investing? What is flipping?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
start digging into it, and then seeing,
hmm
just start making that change. But that's that's all, man. This is you got me hype over
We
here.
got
I'm
we got
still
a lot of
tripping.
tangents going, bro.
I'm still tripping off this quote, man. 2 years ago, bro, or no,
No,
2019, you said.
this is about to be 4 years ago, dog. 4 years ago.
Wow.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah, it's
send
a
me that.
great quote. Great quote, bro. For sure.
Oh man. Well, hey, bro, before we get off this show today, because I really, really, one, appreciate you taking the time to come on here. Definitely means a lot. Dropping some real knowledge on here, some great things, and I can't wait for this show to come out this week so people can hear this. But before
For
we
sure.
get off, if there was like one thing, one lesson, one gem that you wanted to drop for the listeners, what would that be?
Hmm. Your gem for the day is comparison is the thief of joy.
Ooh, ooh.
Comparison is the thief of joy. I don't have to explain that. I want you to internalize it and think about what it means to you. Um,
Mm.
on your day to day exercises, on your day to day life, don't look at the next person to see what they do, um, because that's how you lose happiness in yourself.
I don't think much more needs to be said, my brother. That's a big
That's a
that's
I.
hey, that's real. Hey, I
Yeah.
want to thank you again, brother, and we gonna take it out here. So let's get in the smoker.